Welcome back to the Realm of Inspiration. I am Castalia Theo, the channeler of the Elfian Realm. Just gotta show the source a whole bunch because this is another episode, well, technically the first episode of Meet the Domains. So we are meeting a very, very fun domain. So let me show you. This is the No Man Joybringer Elder. We are meeting this domain, and in this episode I am going to introduce all of you to all the types of elves in this domain. More like they're going to introduce themselves, because I'll be channeling them. But before I do so, I would like to read just a little quote from this domain, from the Elder of this domain. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, I guess this is the one we're going with. Here's a quick oh yeah! This domain, wait, how could I forget? This No Man Joybringer domain is the domain that was miscommunicated as Christmas elves. So let me just say that before I read this little quote, because this paragraph that they drew me to is definitely going to be the basis of what they're talking about, because that's kind of how this works with them. So here's a quick summary. This is directly from the No Man Joybringer Elder. Here's a quick summary of what actually happened with Nikolai and us. Nikolai had an Elfian guide who showed him beyond the veil and introduced him to the elves. I communicated with him and he agreed to help us spread joy to the world. When I introduced the No Man Elfian Joybringers, I explained why we go by that name and told him all that had happened. He truly understood and promised to not let anything like that happen again. He promised to always be honest with us, and he was. However, things tend to get lost in translation over time. When it came to bringing joy, he figured out how and offered to help. Once he took the reins of the mission and helped the No Man Elfian Joybringers start their purpose, I left the Earth realm and join the rest of the elders. So this is definitely going to be the basis of what they're talking about. So let me just show you these elves again so that you know who is coming through and communicating. These guys. I actually have a deep soul connection with the elder of this domain in a way that I don't with the rest of the domain elders. So this is going to be fun and exciting, and he loves to come and speak through me and communicate and introduce himself. So in this series with Meet the Domains, I'm going to give the elders an opportunity to introduce themselves, and then they're just going to take over. So I'm going to be doing a different type of channeling than I think that I've done on YouTube format, where I'm not going to be taking breaks in between the Elfians that are coming through. I'm going to let them do it like how I would do it in a channeled session, where they just come through when they're ready to come through, and I give them permission to do so. As long as I know which domain, and if they're switching to another domain, like they want me to be like, oh, there's a question about something, the No Man Joybringers can't answer it, but the healer elves can, and then they'll just ask for my permission, and I give it without having to come out of the channeled kind of trance. So that's what we're going to be doing in this series to save time. Okay. I'm calling on the No Man Elfian Joybringer domain of the Elfian Realm. I'm calling on the elder of this domain. Hi, yes, you're here. I know you're here. Can you please step through whenever you're ready and communicate to the collective who you are in a brief introduction, and just completely, you know how this works. Okay, step through whenever you're ready. Hello, I am the No Man Elfian Joybringer Elder. So nice to get to talk to all of you again. I've come through many, many times before, and I will continue to do so because I just love all of you lovely humans. Let me introduce me. How do I do that? It's very hard to describe my soul journey in a short amount of time, as it is for most elders, but a quick summary. I was not always what I am. I was not always a joy bringer. I worked with cosmic elements and teaching. And throughout the time of Atlantis, I was really taking on a teacher role. But I always felt called to spreading joy and positivity. After the fall of Atlantis, that was something that was needed. And so our source granted us all the ability to create new domains. And I created one. I was the first one to ascend to elder status. I was the first one to create a brand new domain because our source believed that having a domain strictly focused on spreading positivity and joy would be very beneficial to have in this new world that you are all living in now, but at that point it was very, very new. The current version of Earth that you all are a part of. So I did. And we used to just be joybringers. That was very short-lived. We learned very quickly that during that period after the fall that people could see beyond the veil. And they could also see negative entities. And if you know some backstory on the experimentation, the people consumed by darkness took the physical forms of elves and mutated them to become hosts for negative entities, and the souls of the elf that was living in that physical form died, is the best way to put it. And that caused people to become afraid of us, because during that time when the energy was very weird, they couldn't clearly distinguish the differences. Not as clearly as they did while Atlantis was still strong. So we always started by introducing ourselves as no-mans. Mainly to show that we don't lie. We are not man. We are not like man. But also many, many other reasons. And then if someone were to ask, what do? We would say, we bring joy. And thus, no-man Elfian joybringers. I stayed on Earth for a very long time. I stayed right beyond the veil, waiting for the proper time for the elves of my domain to truly start their mission. And then they were able to. They were able to in the form of two different types of joybringers. Joybringers of the innocence and joybringers of the sage. I'll let joybringers of the innocence speak now. Hello, I am a joybringer of the innocence, and I'm going to explain what we do. Joybringers of the innocence, we spread joy to innocence. We spread joy to innocence, whether they are innocence in the physical form or innocence in the soul form. Innocence means younger, youth, and we spread joy to them to help them be happy. It's a lot for newer souls when they come into the physical form to comprehend all the reality of, well, not the reality, but the reality of the world that the physical form is. To learn all of those things can be so much for them. So we spread joy to them to remind them that this is a journey and it's a beautiful journey. And we stay with them when they come back again and again and again until they're no longer innocents, they're sage, and they get to work with other joybringers. For innocence in the physical form, we hang around babies until they reach the age of 6 years old. When they reach the age of 6 years old in the physical form, they tend to not be able to see us or communicate with us very clearly, so we lose the ability to work with them as closely as we could in the ages prior. But we still try and offer them support. And depending on how old their soul is, by the age of 16, a innocence joybringer will not be the joybringers that work with them. If they have an older soul, that is when joybringer of the sage will come through and try to spread joy to them and help them find positivity and happiness in a different light. If they are a newer soul, then joybringers of the innocence will stay with them for their entire journey. It's just how it works. There is some exceptions to that rule. I am a joybringer of the innocence that our communicator knows very well as I work with her and her household. And that is because sometimes there are older souls. Souls who have existed since right after the fall of Atlantis. They are older, but not necessarily as old as other. But they need to remember innocence joy. Because they have been so consumed in this one lifetime with negative things that they didn't necessarily get a chance to experience innocence joy. Oh, clearing and cleansing is happening now with thunderstorms. How lovely. Hi, my elf elemental friends, do your work. Now back to what I was saying. There are some people, when they come into the physical form, they don't get an opportunity to experience childhood in a fun way. So Joybringers of the Innocence will come around them and try and offer them support to remember childlike wonder. And it happens a lot more often than you would think. It happened to our communicator, and it also happened to an indigo that she knows. So that is why the Innocence job has developed over the years. It has changed. It has grown. And Joybringers of the Sage, well, they're a little different. And I'll let them speak through. Hello, I am a Joybringer of the Sage. Sage means elder. Sage means your soul has existed for a long time, or you're at a very specific point in the physical form, typically after 60 years, or around 60 years in the physical form, where you have reached sage status in the physical form. Sage does mean wisdom, but it also just means elder. In that regard, just because someone is older does not necessarily mean that they have a lot of wisdom, but we still try to spread joy to them in that way because there are certain things that they just can't do in the same way. We wouldn't recommend that an older human in the physical form go cliff jumping repetitively to experience joy. But if someone was younger and 18 or so, that's more something they can do. Not that we would recommend cliff jumping as bringing joy. It can be dangerous. I can hear my Joybringer of the Innocence friend telling, yes, go do it. And that's how you can tell that we are very different types of elves. I would not recommend that. We also try and bring safety and security through wisdom and knowledge that can bring people joy. That is through having the knowledge and peace of mind that everything is okay. Having the knowledge and peace of mind that you finally have clarity about a situation that has been eating at you inside. Having clarity is a way that we bring joy. And it can be very different for different people, but having clarity from a very serious situation is a form of joy. So if you feel the need to cry after getting clarity, cry, because those can be tears of joy, because finally you're not worrying anymore. We do many other things. We teach and guide souls of sage status, of elder status that still come in the physical form. We guide them on how to remember that it's a fun journey. After a certain point in the spiritual world, in the soul world, after a soul has been to Earth for eons and eons and eons of Earth years, sometimes they can forget the simplest fun. That excitement of the first time they came into the physical form, they can forget. So we try and remind them when they come into the physical form as babies how to have fun in a way that's suitable for them. Because at certain levels of your soul, the different things that bring you joy change. And we understand that. And that's why there are different types of Joybringers that work with different people in different times. And even there are different ones with the Sage, and there are different ones with the Innocence that work all with the same type of souls and types of physical form humans, but they can all do things differently. And that's how we evolve, and that's how you evolve. And speaking of evolution, there are more Joybringers. There's one more group in our domain, and those are the Guardians of the Veil. And I know they've communicated to you before, but now let them communicate to you and truly introduce themselves. Oh, elemental friends. Guardians of the Veil, step through. Hello, I am a Guardian of the Veil. There is a lot of clearing and cleansing happening right now. How beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I have communicated to you all before. So let me communicate now. I guard the veil. We make sure that only positive things come through. We send messages, we work with your guides, we work with elementals, we're protectors, but also Joybringers. Because we learned during our journey as elves that there are some people who, when they look beyond the veil, they want to know what's there, but they don't want to be alarmed. They want to see something familiar. And we have a very familiar look to us. We are Joybringers, but we look like traveler guides. but we also don't. There's something very familiar about the way that we look. We offer a calm sense of peace when somebody's finally ready to truly see beyond the veil. We can guide and teach them and show them what's beyond the veil and give them a sense of relief. That's a different form of joy. Joy is not as simple as you would think. We took on that job when we realized that people were scared of the unknown. So we wanted to make sure that they were never scared of the unknown again. And we also wanted to show and communicate truth to them about what is positive, what is negative, what is gray, what does that all mean, how does that affect you? When you look beyond the veil, what do you truly see? If we see someone looking beyond the veil, but they can only see negative things, we try our best to guide them to the light. Going into the light is not a bad thing. It is a term that has been used as death, but it can also mean death of an old you, going into the light of the true you and letting the egotistical you fall past. And when you step into the light of the true you, you can see us clearly beyond the veil, and we are here to help and support. We are guardians. We are elves. We are joy bringers. Beautiful. I'm assuming the lighting got very weird. But beautiful, beautiful, beautiful elves. Thank you. I'm so happy that the Joybringers got a chance to introduce themselves. And in the next installment of this series on the Realm of Inspiration, we have a chance to meet the Traveler Guides. So that's going to be really